stars in the spotlight, secrets in the night. Headlines take flight, we're the keepers of the light. The talk of shame, we know the name. Fame's the game, join the flame.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Talk of Shame. Here we do it all. We talk about all the pop culture, all of the headlines that are trending. Obviously, we love to go into the deep dives here on YouTube. I am Kiki Monique. If you already follow me on Instagram and TikTok, thank you. But we kind of do different things over there. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button and you're following me here on YouTube, because this is where I like to go deeper into, if we're looking into, in this case, a lawsuit, what's in there? What are the details? It's going to get into more of the nitty gritty here on YouTube. So make sure you are following me here. Obviously, we need to talk about Garth Brooks today. It was breaking news. I believe it came out Thursday that Garth Brooks was being sued by an anonymous woman. And according to this lawsuit, this was a former hair and makeup artist that was used. She was originally hired by Garth's wife, Trisha, back in 1999. And according to this lawsuit, she started working for Garth Brooks in 2017. I don't think I have to warn you, but I will. Obviously, the allegations in this lawsuit, are all allegations, and also they are pretty disturbing. So, a lot of the stuff can get pretty graphic and pretty detailed. So just giving you that warning up front. What's interesting about this case is that prior to the lawsuit being filed in Los Angeles, there is another lawsuit that has been filed in Mississippi. It only references a John Doe and a Jane Doe, but it seems to be tied directly to this case. So we will get into that as well. Let me start by saying that Garth Brooks has already come out, released a statement, just emphatically and categorically denying all the accusations against him. This was the statement he made. He said, "For the last 2 months, I have been hassled to no end with threats, lies, and tragic tales of what my future would be if I did not write a check for many millions of dollars. It has been like having a loaded gun waved in my face. Hush money, no matter how much or how little, is still hush money. In my mind, that means I am admitting to behavior I am incapable of. Ugly acts no human should ever do to another. We filed suit against this person nearly a month ago to speak out against extortion and defamation of character. We filed it anonymously for the sake of families on both sides. I want to play music tonight. I want to continue our good deeds going forward. It breaks my heart these wonderful things are in question now. I trust the system. I do not fear the truth, and I am not the man they have painted me to be." So that is Garth's statement on these allegations. And you see, he referenced that lawsuit that had been filed, I believe he said about 2 months or a month ago. So let me pull this up for you. There is a lawsuit that was filed in the Southern District of Mississippi. It just lists a John Doe versus a Jane Roe. So we can't attach who it is, but some of the language makes it seem like this is the lawsuit that is connected to that. Let me pull that up just so you can see what that one is. I will. So this is the lawsuit that was filed in Mississippi. And you see that, it just lists, the John Doe versus Jane Roe. And what it says is that the plaintiff is an adult resident and citizen of Tennessee. We know Garth Brooks is a resident of Tennessee. Plaintiff brings this action under the pseudonym John Doe to avoid the irreparable harm to reputation that he seeks to prevent through this action. Plaintiff will disclose his identity to the court through a sealed in-camera filing or as the court otherwise deems appropriate. Defendant is an adult resident of Mississippi, and you'll see when we get to the lawsuit filed in California that Jane Roe, said that she had moved to Mississippi. But again, they say they listed as Jane Roe to avoid unnecessarily harming her reputation. And in the facts, it says that the plaintiff of this Mississippi lawsuit is a celebrity and public figure who resides in Tennessee, and that the defendant worked with the plaintiff as an independent contractor for 15 years before she relocated from Tennessee to Mississippi in May 2020. What's alleged in this lawsuit is that the John Doe is saying that soon after moving to Mississippi, that the defendant encountered financial difficulties and asked for financial assistance, and that the plaintiff complied out of loyalty, friendship, and a desire to improve the defendant's condition, but that the demands for financial assistance only increased, and defendant ultimately asked plaintiff for a salaried employee and benefit. So what this person is alleging is that this person came upon hard times, they were trying to help them, and they kept asking for more and more money. Eventually, the plaintiff is saying he could not agree to the additional demands, and that this defendant responded with false and outrageous allegations of sexual misconduct she claims occurred years ago. Specifically on July 17th, an attorney acting at defendant's direction sent plaintiff and others with whom plaintiff professionally works an ostensibly confidential demand letter alleging a litany of sexual misconduct by plaintiff, ranging from allegations of sexual grooming, creating a sexual hostile work environment, unwanted sexual touching, and sexual assault. So they're saying this demand letter was sent. There was a follow-up letter that was sent August 23rd. And basically, they're saying that the defendant's allegations are not true. And that's what this lawsuit is about. And sorry, let me stop sharing this really quickly. And essentially, it's just really interesting because that lawsuit was filed September 13th, right? Which was before the lawsuit was filed in Los Angeles. And essentially, the Jane Roe's attorneys are saying, that lawsuit was filed. We basically had to file this lawsuit because they're trying to shut down, our ability to file our lawsuit is essentially where it's going. It's saying, Garth is alleging that there was someone that hassled him for 2 months. And we'll get to that. Now, in the lawsuit that was filed in LA, in California, on, I believe it was October 3rd is the date that is listed as the date of filing. There are 6 complaints that are listed in this lawsuit. The first is assault. The second is battery. The third is sexual battery. And the fourth is basically violation of the Bain Act, which we can get into. Fifth is violation of the Ralph Act. These are both civil rights, basically codes in California. We can get into that, but essentially they can be used for sexual assault cases as well, but they're about civil rights. And then the 6th is about gender violence. So those are the 6 accusations that are listed in this lawsuit against Garth Brooks. And in this lawsuit, this again is filed, it's Jane Roe versus Garth Brooks. So this was the first time that Garth had been named. And again, it seems that the Mississippi filing was done as a way to avoid his name being leaked. That's what it's alleged. That's what it's alleged. And that's what it seems when you tie these two together. Also, I forgot to mention comments are on. If you are subscribed, you can ask questions as we go through some of these. Now, in the complaint, they go through their preliminary statement and they talk, they set the scene for, who Jane Roe is. And essentially it talks about how in 1999, the plaintiff was hired to do makeup and hairstyling for Trisha Yearwood. And then in 2017, she was asked to start doing makeup and hairstyling for Garth Brooks. She said that in 2019, Garth learned that the plaintiff was experiencing financial difficulties. And because of that, she says that he then began to hire her more to help her out. But what she alleges in her complaint is that Garth started to take advantage of the fact that she needed money and essentially wasn't going to go anywhere. And she alleges that this side of Garth came out where he allegedly felt entitled to sexual gratification as he wanted it. And it really focuses, there were several incidences that they focus on. She talks about how allegedly in 2019, she was at Garth Brooks's house to style his hair. She was setting herself stuff up in the bathroom as she normally does. And that allegedly he gets in the shower and takes a shower, and that he comes out of the shower with a full-on erection pointed at her, and that he allegedly, grabbed her hands and forced her hands onto his member and asked her to perform oral sex, and allegedly had fantasies about her keeping her glasses on so he could finish on her face. This was allegedly the sexual fantasies that he would talk to her about. It then focuses a lot on this trip in May 2019 when the Jane Roe alleges that she was asked to travel with Garth to Los Angeles for a Grammy tribute. And she alleges that, first she says that it was normal that when they would fly out on the private jet, that other people normally would be on the jet. But she said this time it was just the two of them on this jet, which she thought was strange. She also alleges that once they got to the hotel, that there was only one hotel room suite with one bedroom, and that they didn't have a separate bedroom. I think I have a little cut out. This was this was where she talked about there was one hotel room, they didn't have a separate room, and she alleges that when she asked, could she have a separate room, she alleges that Garth Brooks said no. And the incident that she describes in the hotel room is rather graphic. I don't really know, even to the point where in the lawsuit, they said that they alleged that there were incidences that were so graphic, they didn't even include it in the lawsuit itself. But this is where the Jane Roe alleges she was raped. And she says that because he allegedly knew her position, that he knew she wouldn't leave, and she couldn't because she was in a financial bind, and this was the only money coming in to take care of her family. And so she continued to work. And she alleges, the harassment continued on. And as much as she alleges that she tried to stop it. She would say no, when it was happening. She said it didn't matter. She also alleges there was some text message exchanges that were happening where, he was still, sending, fantasies or graphic things. And, she was trying to say, no, I don't want to, no more fooling around. I don't want to do that anymore. Now, she alleges that at some point in 2020, I don't know if I have that point. Let's see. Okay, I will say that, so she also claims that, after that incident in 2019, I think she had some suicidal ideations. She was feeling hopeless. and that she had to seek treatment for that. But she alleges sometime in 2020 that Garth, because of these text message exchanges, she says that he, one day while she was doing his hair, grabbed her phone and deleted all of their messages. Supposedly, most of the messages were deleted. They do have a screenshot in the lawsuit. I'll bring that one up, of one of the text messages that they said did not get deleted. This was a text message that they said, yeah, so this is where it would happen. It said, one day in 2020, she was on the site of studio to style Brooks' hair and do his makeup. He took her phone allegedly and deleted most of the text messages that he had sent to her. She alleges that Garth uses more than one cell phone and would sometimes use different names and emails to communicate with her. Then they allege that although Brooks thought he deleted everything on Miss Rowe's phone, he did not, and some texts remain, including those in which he encouraged Miss Rowe to speak in a sexualized manner to him, such as this message referring to his huge stick. And it just says something warm fact. They redacted a part because I think there was another employee which they were trying to protect. And that huge stick you carry, Roosevelt, I'll take that nickname. Thank you. I love you. It's hard to really understand the context of what is in the text message, but that is the only text message that's shown in this lawsuit. What's also kind of interesting, or just like very, I guess, surprising more than anything, is she alleges that there were times when Garth would allegedly be inappropriate when his wife, Trisha, was in the presence. There was a section of the lawsuit where she says Brooks increased the frequency of his sexually charged conversations with Miss Rowe, and this included his repeated remarks about having a threesome with his wife, in which he implied that Miss Rowe would be the third person, which Brooks' wife overheard on at least one occasion, Miss Rowe believes. Now, again, these are all allegations, but she's alleging that he would talk about having threesomes and including her, and that at least one time she thinks that his wife overheard. Then she says, in or about May 2020, Brooks, while speaking to his manager, Randy, and Miss Yearwood directly in front of Miss Rowe, talked about inventing a shampoo bottle that would double as a dildo. When Miss Rowe became uncomfortable and would not join in the conversation, Brooks became upset and slammed both of his fists onto the kitchen countertop so forcefully that items were tossed around, and he leaned in towards Miss Rowe and spoke in a threatening manner to her. She says after that incident, she was really upset, and that she sent a text message, about how she didn't like being apart, didn't like hearing these inappropriate conversations. Because she also alleges in her lawsuit that, even in front of her, she says that Garth would, be kissy and fondly and grabby with his wife in front of her, and that would make her feel uncomfortable. So she's saying this conversation made her feel uncomfortable. She sent a text message about it, and then she said she followed it up with an email where she said, I can't work in an environment where explicit sexual comments are made about shampoo bottles, doubling and dildos. I mean you no harm. And if you truly value my work, I'm happy to show up tomorrow or wherever you may need me. After she sent that text, she alleges she wrote him an email with the same exact message, and that she copied his wife, Trisha Yearwood, on that email. So again, she's alleging, I think, she's alluding to that she was making his wife aware of that situation. So that was like a surprising thing. And, again, she's not alleging that Trisha had anything to do with anything, but it's interesting that she's including that in the lawsuit. So the lawsuit, like I said, the first cause of action is for the assault. And it's really referencing that incident in 2019 in that hotel suite. The second cause of action is the battery. Um, Again, there were some very graphic details of, what went on during that, but it was like a pretty graphic and horrifying description of that night. Um, to the point where she claims that she had to seek medical attention. Uh, the third cause, sexual battery. And then again, so I don't know, I haven't looked at too many cases like this, but I haven't seen, the Bain Act and Ralph Act reference, but I'm sure it happens. I'm sure it's common. Because the Bain Act was originally, it was like, it's known as the Tom Bain Civil Rights Act, also known as the Bain Act, is a California civil rights law that protects citizens from interference with their constitutional or statutory rights. The Bain Act allows individuals to sue for damages against anyone who attempts to interfere with a person's right through threats, intimidation, or coercion. So they're saying, at relevant times herein, Brooks interfered or attempted to interfere by threat, intimidation, or coercion, and by physical force with Miss Rowe's exercise or enjoyment of her right to be free from sexual assault and sexual discrimination as secured by the laws of California. And then the Ralph Act is pretty similar. It's saying that the Ralph Act, it's the Civil Rights Act of 1976, is a California law that protects people from hate, violence, and intimidation. It prohibits violence of violence against a person or their property based on a number of protected characteristics. One of those characteristics being sex, sexual orientation, but it's also race, color. So again, it talks about, they're saying that because this violent act that's alleged against Garth was motivated by her sex, and that if he would not have committed the same violence against a man. And so that is how they are referencing that in the Ralph Act. And then gender violence, which is and then because she was allegedly subjected to unwanted forced sexual groping, touching, squeezing of her breasts, forced exposure of her breasts, for his sexual gratification, including on a 5-day trip to Los Angeles. Because she also alleges, because again, she continued to work for him, and alleges like when people, anytime people weren't around, she alleges, he would, grab her, whether it was breast, or tell her to like open her shirt or those sorts of things. Again, Garth has denied all of these allegations. Like I showed you before, this is his statement that he released, where he's denying everything. And again, there is the lawsuit that, again, it doesn't name him, but there is this other lawsuit in Mississippi. But obviously it didn't, because it seemed like that lawsuit in Mississippi was to try to prevent his name from being released. But now we have this this California lawsuit where he has been named. So I don't know what that means for the Mississippi lawsuit. Obviously, I think that's, I don't know how much more we're going to hear. I mean, again, there's like two things that happen when these sorts of cases come out against celebrities, right? Either more people start coming forward, that is definitely a possibility, or we don't really hear anything about it for a while because obviously the court system, there's negotiations, there's settlements, there's talks, it just kind of like goes on and on. So if it remains quiet and this is the only case, I mean, obviously for him, that's best case scenario. But what we see sometimes happen with celebrities is other people say, oh, one person, I'm brave enough to come forward. So obviously we'll keep a watch on this case and, see what happens. But, I guess it's for me, a pretty surprising, because again, I've never really heard too much chatter about Garth Brooks. So it was a shocking alert to get. but we'll be following this case. I'm obviously following several other cases right now. I actually, on Friday, there was, I've been following the Shia LaBeouf FKA Twigs case. I don't know if you remember that one. That one was filed back in December of 2020. And that one was very graphic, very detailed. And it's gotten, just kind of extended from both parties on both sides. There was meant to be a trial status hearing on Friday, October 4th. And I had gone online to see what happened with that. And it looked like basically that no one attended that. It was like vacated, but the case is supposedly moving forward. And it seems like on October 14th, there's going to be a hearing about the trial, whether there's going to be a trial. I think it's called a trial setting hearing is what they called it. Let me see if that's what it was called. I think it was called a trial. I think it was called a trial setting hearing, and that's on October 14th. And I think it was in the Van Nuys court. So that will determine, I guess, if they're in a place to move forward with that trial and if a trial date will be set. So that's another case I'm following. And obviously there's so many more. There's obviously an update on Diddy kind of every day. So I don't know if I could even continue doing Diddy every day. It's kind of like, almost status updates at this point. I haven't checked in on the Tupac trial. Keefe D is going to be on trial in Las Vegas for that. So obviously we'll come here and we'll do some, deep dives and go into those lawsuits and anything new that pops up. And and also thanks for being so patient. I know I didn't go live last week, but I was really busy, but I will get back on that because I do want to do some days where we just do top trending headlines because there's so many headlines that are coming out every day, especially in reality TV world. But obviously, follow me here on YouTube. We can go deep dive, but also follow me on Instagram and TikTok for those breaking news. I'm always going to be breaking news quickly on those platforms. And then, of course, for SiriusXM users, Reality Checked every Monday, where we go all into the reality shows I'm watching. I'm probably going to do another live because right now I'm just all about that prison life. I think someone DM'd me and said that people who are into these prison shows were called bunkies. So I'm part of the bunkie crew. And so I'm going to be all about reality shows, especially those prison shows. I'm really getting into, especially Love After Lockup, this new Life After Lockup. But anyways, thanks for joining, and I will see you next time.